Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
The E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have, for the first week of SCP-Sember, SCP-3896. The nights grow weary! Anyway.
Are you singing it like that?
Because it's like the nights that grow the nights that grow knee.
They do grow many knees.
All the knees.
Yes.
It's like the nights that say knee. Like
yes, anyway, of course.
Yeah, being critically silly right off the hop. So this one, SCP-3896. It's by CadaverCommander. You can I'll just dive into the rundown here. So SCP-3896 is Big Gordo's Grub Shack, a diner located approximately 2 miles north of Littleville, Alabama, United States of America. Wait. Nope.
What?
Sorry, that's the right SCP entry, but the wrong website. Sorry, I'm just going to move away from SCP Wiki, the scpwiki.wiki.com, and
.wiki.
Yeah,
I don't say wiki enough.
and venture over to the scp.foundation site, which is where SCP-3896, The Nights Grow Weary, actually resides. I'm assuming
the wiki, the very wiki heavy URL is the main one.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, I don't know if that's mainly I don't know if there was some kind of like a changeover or like a kind of a split or whatever as a result of like the community, or like maybe that snafu that happened a couple of years ago with the Russian wiki. But yeah, for some reason there's there's a couple of different websites for the SCP Foundation, and the confusing thing, as we noted a couple of months ago when we did the SCP-3896 of Big Gordo's Grub Shack, was that it has nothing to do with all the previous SCP entries that were connected with SCP-3896. The Nights That Grow Weary. What?
I remember we attempted to make it work and connect it to everything, though. Anyways.
Yeah, we did try to make Big Gordo's Grub Shack, we tried to maybe it is a part of this in some way, in some capacity. It was just a bit confusing. But yeah, so that's where we're starting. SCP-Sember is all of the SCPs that branched off from the previous entries that we had tackled, because SCP entries are like Yggdrasil. They just keep branching off, fractaling into different SCP entries.
Not wrong.
So yeah, going back to the actual to the SCP-3896 at hand, which is The Nights Grow Weary. It's on SCP Foundation, or scp.foundation. It is also by CadaverCommander. So SCP-3896 is the joint designation for a number of anomalous phenomena on, within, and surrounding Bokanasian Island in the Bikini Atoll of the South Pacific. SCP-3896-01 are various amalgam biomass monstrosities similar to other mother creatures from previous entries. See the entity dredged up by Holland Hank, or see the entities dredged up by Holland Hank, or the creature from the entity formerly known as Guam.
Yes.
SCP-3896-02 are humanoid warrior beings clad in an array of oceanic armor, ranging from eroded historical armor of different kind of corroded metals and such, or constructs of driftwood, stone, and coral. They wield archaic melee weapons such as swords, maces, and axes, and possess the ability to manipulate seawater and localized gravity. SCP-3896-03 is a cadaverous humanoid with antlers protruding from its head, They are fused to biomass at the back of a cave on Bokonasian Island. So 01 and 02, when they manifest, sorry. So getting back to 01 and 02, they manifest roughly 700 meters off the shore of the island and cave, about 1 to 3 times a month. Like it's sort of like a couple of times a month. They
like a set amount, like 3 or 4 times a month. It's not like 1 to 4.
Give me a second. I thought it was approximately 4 times per month. Yeah. So approximately 4 times per month, they spawn out on the ocean about 700 meters from the island. And then they do battle with one another. So a giant, like, kaiju-sized biomonster and this, like, oceanic, like, knight, basically. A knight and dragon, if you will, out on the ocean. Despite 02's best efforts, 01 will win these competitions or these combats, destroying 02 in the process, unless accosted by SCP naval forces, who arrive to aid 02. If 01 destroys 02 before Foundation ships arrive, it will attempt to leave for a larger human population center. Thus far, the Foundation has been able to blockade and defeat these 01s, though not without cost to their ships and their people. Going back to 03, over in the cave, 03 appears to be chatty, according to an interview that is supplied in the entry. An Agent Hess was able to get several interesting pieces of information from the entity, who appears to be an emissary of the mother entity from the previous documents that we have done on our show. However, the interview is cut short when the mother decides to make the interview a little bit more intimate. Agent Hess is devoured when the cave becomes Jaws and just crunches down on them. As an addendum, after the interview, since the demise of Agent Hess, the 01 entities that have been spawning off the coast of the island have been gaining a better sense of tactics when dealing with SCP naval forces, which, you know what, checks out based on what we've seen in the past entries that we've done on the show, and the nature of these entities, where, like, basically they assimilate casualty or collateral. They assimilate agents and basically apply their knowledge and memories to the host creature as a whole. So, the Foundation is currently searching out more of SCP-3896 around the world based on intel gathered from the late Agent Hess. And that's about it for this SCP. So, I suppose we shall move on to everyone tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions. At this point, I've got nothing. So, Mikey, do you have something?
I also have nothing, because all the its, ands, or buts were in dialogue.
Gotcha. And Gamer?
Nope.
Cool. Then we shall move on to actual thoughts. So I'm going to start actually with the layout of the SCP.Foundation website. I love how clear the associated SCP links are. They are linked in the entry, like when they pop up in the document, but they are also at the top of the entry too, like in a little listing of like associated or connected SCPs.
Yeah, and they're all like hyperlinks, and you can just mouse over them to get like quick information on them even.
Yeah. Also, regarding the website, did anyone actually check out the homepage for SCP.Foundation?
I did not.
Damn, that is an intense level of immersion. Like, just take a moment if you can and go to go to the SCP.Foundation like homepage.
Okay. Stand by.
Loading.
Well, that's cool.
Click the access button, because there's another layer. Yeah, like, and I don't know, like, as far as I can tell, I like you. Oh, cool. Okay, so yeah, you can just type in a username, and there's what I showed my host, and what you can check out yourself on SCP.Foundation or the-SCP.Foundation. It starts off with
Not enough characters for my name.
It
What
says
a surprise!
it pops up with like this like animated like sort of like website screen. With tracking lines, I might add as well, like on the page. Warning: the Foundation database is classified. Access by unauthorized personnel is strictly prohibited. Perpetrators will be tracked, located, and detained. And then it has a little like a button you can press called Access Database. Then it pops up, like that goes away, and another animated interface comes up saying the SCP Foundation, enter credentials. And you have to put in a username and then click an on button next to it in order to access the website. I think that is an amazing sense of immersion for the SCP writing community.
It is really cool.
Like, god damn. Sorry, I just had to gush over that because like when I stumbled upon it because I was grabbing the link for our descriptor for the SCP Foundation website, and I was like, what? So, yeah. Kudos to the guys, or to the folks that are behind SCP.Foundation. So, but
That's
I
really
will,
cool.
yeah. But I will move on to my
It
next.
doesn't like make an account or anything, right? That just
it's
you just put anything in and it lets you through.
Yeah, that's like I just put in like random gibberish and was able to get through. So it's not like super like it's not like it's mocking up a government like sort of like situation, but it's not like gatekeeping you to like access the other like the other entries and stuff that are in the SCP entry.
Yeah, it's not it's not forcing you to make an account and go through your email and do all that shit.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's just like it's just a fun little like bit of immersion. It's like enter your credentials. All right, Agent Crazon,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in.
One thing I would think would be cool is if at the top it said like agent and then whatever you typed in is always at the top of the screen, just when you're reading shit.
Yeah,
just because it'd be like the website saying that you're logged in even though you're not, but it just has like that immersion of that.
For sure.
Either way, that's very cool.
But I'll move on to my next comment about the actual entry that we're covering here, 3896, The Nights Grow Weary. So starting with this comment here, SCP-3896 is the joint...
Actually, hang on. I was just reading over my note. I was reading over my note, which had to do with the website and stuff, and there was something that you didn't mention.
Oh, okay.
There's a subtitle to this that most SCPs don't have.
Okay. Here's the thing: they do on the SCP Wiki, but they're only in the listing. They're never brought up in the actual document.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is something I know. Yeah, and again, like it's one of the reasons why there is a confusion between SCP-3896, which is Big Gordo's Grub Shack, and SCP-3896, The Nights Grow Weary. Also,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure SCP-3896, Gordo's Grub Shack is also done by CadaverCommander. I think. I'm gonna just double. I just want to double check this.
It can't be.
I mean. Hang on. Gonna check the history of this page. Yeah, it's by CadaverCommander, according to the to who posted it. But I'm pretty sure the Nights Grow Weary is also by CadaverCommander.
Mm-hmm.
Though that one's a little bit more analogous. No, sorry, not analogous. A little bit more what?
Anomalous?
Yeah, a little bit more, or a little ambiguous. A little bit more ambiguous.
There you go.
Because I can't find like on the SCP Foundation website like the authors. Actually, maybe I can find it in the history and stuff like that. Maybe let's take a look here. See if that helps. Cool. Nope. Yeah. So I don't really know who did this, or who specifically did this, but I feel like it would probably be CadaverCommander, since it does link to all of other CadaverCommander's stuff. It's just for some reason they made 2 SCP-3896s.
Yeah.
Maybe one is official and one is, I do in quotes because it's a community of fan writers and stuff. But like official SCP-3896 versus the non-official SCP-3896 designation, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's just
Because
weird.
of its non-officialness, like it could be anyone that wrote it. Someone could have been in the same situation as us, where they read it and they're like, "How is this connected to everything else?" They're like, "Screw it, I'll write my own story."
Yeah, exactly.
It's entirely possible.
And it is a little bit further confusing because SCP-3896 like has a bunch of links to the like 3889, 3897. So 3889, as you remember, is good old Holland Hank.
Yeah.
3897, which is the basically the giant floating corpse thing, which actually also has its own nickname. Mother's Eye is upon you.
Okay.
The Burdens, which is 3898, and 3893, which is the cave at the bottom of the Tonga Trench. So like, and another thing I want to bring up about the website's layout here. When you
Glad I
go
went back to this, you apparently have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah. So like another thing I like about this, so like I mentioned earlier that like it has like connected to, and then it shows like all the links. It has links to like all the other SCPs that this entry is connected to.
Yes.
And so those SCPs are all official SCP entries according to the SCP Wiki. The other cool thing is that when you tab over them without even clicking, it prompts a small window that gives you a description of what the entity is before you even go to click to it. So
Yep.
like
I'm pretty sure I said that.
Did you say that? I'm sorry.
pretty sure.
I totally gapped that. I apologize.
It's cool, but yes, it is awesome. It's worth commenting on twice for sure.
Yeah. Also, I also like their classification table system is a little bit more clear. Like we've got like the Keter.
All the stuff on the right.
Yeah, we have SCP Keter, but we also have like a symbol for esoteric, a symbol for aquatic, humanoid, biological, location-based, telekinetic, and stuff like that. Like it gives us like a little bit more, like kind of iconography, or a little bit more of a symbolic descriptor of what you're getting into with this entry.
Yeah, it's
rather
like,
than
it's like on the I was going to say actual. They're both actually SCPs, but on the other SCP website, was it CadaverCommander Stories that had the really cool header at the top of all of them?
It is. Yes, it is.
Apparently, this entire website does this because I clicked on a couple of random ones, number 2 and number 44, and they both have the same layout.
So I wonder if like maybe the SCP Foundation website is maybe like maybe CadaverCommander is a little bit more into like, or a little bit more like maybe they're one of the people that like helped build that one up, or
I
like
think that it's
whoever
just the standard for this website. Like every single SCP has this standard.
Yeah, that could also be it.
Which is the way it should be, because it's meant to be an immersive thing where they're all handled by the same company and everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or the same like organization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, like the SCP Wiki, like the way it has like the older way, and then like we have these newer ways and stuff. That's also like kind of immersion level for bureaucracy, because like, do you know how long it takes like police offices and stuff like that to go back and digitize their old documents? And like they've changed their procedures since like the 1970s or the 1980s. Like I saw it like most prevalent, like a good strong example of that is actually from the TV show True Detective season 1, where the only reason we're finding out about the weird King in Yellow shit that happened in True Detective season 1 is because the new generation of police officers are trying, like since the hurricane hit their area like a couple of years back, they're trying to go through and like reclaim a bunch of old like documentation and stuff like that from their old records, like because a bunch of their old records were damaged. So, and like they're going back and like trying digitizing the records again, like for the next age of technology and formatting. So, yeah, again, it's like the situation on the SCP Wiki page where like the old documents aren't the same as the new ones. That's fine to me because that also kind of represents bureaucracy and bullshit.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one is just like it makes it more like all coherent and like everything's the same, which is also a part of bureaucracy, or what it's like what bureaucracy strives to do and what bureaucracy is basically the example of these two websites.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's perfect because that's what the SCP is trying to represent is the horror of bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I digress hard. Unless you have any, for realsies. Unless, of course, Gamer has something else he'd want to pipe up with.
No.
Okay, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing because, like, thank you because apparently I did have a lot more to say about the website.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll move on to the next thing I have. So, SCP-3896 is the joint designation of a number of anomalous phenomena on, within, or surrounding Bokonasian Island, a lesser island in the northwestern quadrant of the Bikini Atoll. So, as soon as I got a geographical location, like the Bokonasian, and I apologize if I'm not saying that right, it might be Bokonasian. But as soon as I got like a name of an island and like the Bikini Atoll and stuff like that, I was like, all right, I'm going to Google map this. And I got, so Bikini Atoll is an actual place. I'm not sure if Bokonasian's probably like an island on it because it's an atoll. So it's basically like a ring of land that is exposed over the water, that's slightly exposed on the ocean surface. And there's little, like the parts that are like more above water are the islands around it. So you can actually, if you look up atoll, like it's just like this ring of land or like almost like a reef. And there's just like sort of a central like hole in the ocean and then the ocean around it. But getting to why I looked it up and so I also like saw that it's like, oh, it's about I did some like rough estimate, and the Bikini Atoll is about 2,200 kilometers from Guam, which is relatively close. When you're talking about like the South Pacific. So, at least according to Operation Marduk, the entity formerly known as Guam is relatively close by to this emergence area. Of other biomass creatures. So I thought that was a little neat thing when I was looking up like the real place it's mentioned in the story or in the entry.
Yeah, so it's not like it's like immersion or horrifying to it. If it's just happening anywhere, but if it's all happening in the same sort of area, that also makes sense.
And it does, and the entity within the cave, like 03, does the mother is underneath the earth, and it's basically going up through the earth. But I'll get to that in a minute. That whole kind of revelation in a minute.
Old Mother Earth.
So yeah, basically. So going to go with this quote here. Approximately 4 times per month, 2 entities will emerge from the waters have been sequentially 389601 and SCP-389602. And then we get this entry. Upon manifestation, SCP-389601 and SCP-389602 instances will engage in combat. So, kitchen segment time here, because like right from the get-go, I was just like, I could definitely see using this as fodder for a scenario or even an entire campaign that's just Monster of the Week.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because 01 constantly changes its form. Like it's composed of the same kind of material, like biomass and stuff like that, of the dead. And 02 is also like a sort of like, it kind of differs depending on what kind of creature it is, or depending on what kind of like armor it's wearing and what kind of weapon it's using and stuff.
Yeah, like for example, on 01, the description is like when it has a head, it has eyes sometimes and a mouth
that are with jagged jaws.
Like sometimes it doesn't even have a head.
Yeah, exactly. So you could either like for like RPG like scenario adventures and stuff like that, I could definitely see like the titular Monster of the Week RPG or like the one that's like powered by the apocalypse. Or using Savage Worlds supplement like Savage Tokusatsu, which does give you rules for the Savage Worlds games, to use to create your own kaiju to do battle. But you could also be one of the knights here, because it's basically like the knights are basically just a Sentai. For all like basically they're a supernatural warrior caste sort of creature. So you could easily do that in that. If you wanted to play as either the kaiju or the knight. I could also see this being used in Esoterrorist or even Delta Green for playing SCP agents aboard the ship blockade, aiding or arriving to stop the kaiju beast from leaving. Like, I just really like how this entry described the situation as essentially a semi-monthly monster brawl.
Yeah, it sort of is.
Yeah,
like a weekly monster brawl.
Yeah, like I was definitely like, as I was reading the story, I was definitely getting like sort of this mashup imagery of like Godzilla, the old '60s Godzilla Monster Brawl game, Monster Brawl movies, like where it's like Godzilla versus Megalon, and he's got like Jet Jaguar, the robot guy, but it's not Godzilla from the '60s. It's Godzilla from Shin Godzilla. So like the horrible like mutated like corpse version of Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then also mashing that up with the Pirates of the Caribbean, like the Davy Jones's crew, who are like made up of fish, of oceanic components.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Maybe a little water bending as well, because like of the abilities that they seem to have.
They had weird shit too, didn't they? In the
They did, but like I don't think they had anything like water bending, or I mean, like some of the pirate lore, some of the pirate captains that like the weird ones in the later movies did, like that Spanish Inquisitor, like that Spanish pirate hunter guy did for sure, and Davy Jones and Blackbeard had like a sword that basically controlled his ship, like he could just swing the sword and it would prep the ship for travel. And such. So
why did he even need a crew? We're on a tangent though.
We are on a huge oh god, the tangent police are knocking at the door. God damn it. Okay, hang on. Okay, we digress. Okay, on to the next thing. So SCP-3896-01, if not engaged immediately, will destroy SCP-3896-02 and begin to travel toward the nearest populated area. SCP-NF forces, is that like ATM machine? Like, isn't the SCP-NF like the SCP Naval Forces?
Yeah, that'd be Naval Forces.
Okay, so there's our one grammar inquisition. That we have an ATM machine moment here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So
sorry, you lose your gold star.
Yeah. God damn it! You're so close, CadaverCommander. We love you.
Unless it means something else.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure it's. No, it's Naval Task Force Omega. So yeah, it's that's one version. Yeah, it doesn't say. All right. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. It I think it's probably an ATM machine moment.
Probably.
Yeah. No, because even yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, because I wrote down like later in my comment about like SCP Naval Forces. So because that's what it seemed like that was the abbreviation for.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, SCP-NF forces have thus far been able to neutralize each SCP-3896-01 instance attempting to breach the blockade at an average cost, or at an average of, how do you guys say
me
that?
To help you with numbers?
Yeah, I hate big numbers. How do you say that?
I think it was 1 point something million.
It's 1250000.
125. What 1.25 million? $1,250,000.
1,250,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, an average of $1,250,000 dollars in tactical assets lost, and 4 Foundation casualties per engagement. So it straight up mentions that the SCP Naval Forces sometimes don't arrive in time. But is there not like why don't they have a permanent blockade around this site? Like, if this is a recurring threat every month, like,
I don't think it's on the same place.
No, it is.
Exactly.
Like, it straight up says like they, like, no, like, I mean, like, put it like they don't have to be like within like the 700 meters of the island, but they got to be like they should have a blockade around that island, like at all times.
Yeah, you'd think.
It just seems like if it's a recurring thing that happens once or like 4 times, like on an average, like that's also the average is 4. Like it might be more, it might be less times a month. You'd think, and that kaiju creatures manifest and might have to might start moving away from the island for population centers. You might want to have just a permanent blockade in the South Pacific. Like,
yeah,
it might draw attention from like the rest of the world and the global and the locals and stuff. But that's what the disinformation protocols are for, right? Like,
I feel like the giant kaiju are going to cause more of a ruckus than just military ships being there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, why are these military ships here? Oh God, a giant giant biomass. I mean, we're in the South Pacific. That's a Tuesday.
Yeah,
Godzilla's over in the Japanese in the Yellow Sea, causing ruckus right now. But I digress. Yeah, it just feels like it might be better to keep the Knights alive so that the SCP personnel aren't endangered any more than they have to be, like by having a blockade there on standby, ready to aid the Knights.
they are trying to keep them alive.
I know, but like there's instances that are mentioned in the document that they don't arrive on time. It's like, unless I guess maybe the blockade is just too far off, like because they don't want to risk like getting too close when the thing manifests, maybe.
Or it might be specifically talking about like early stages of the game, and they're like just finding out about it. Those are instances where they didn't arrive on time.
That's true. Yeah, this does seem like
out that it's a weekly thing. They're like, okay, now we have support nearby at all times.
Yeah, I wonder. SCP containment.
It's not like it's an incident report where there's
okay. You know what?
On it.
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right, because I'm rereading the special containment procedures, and it straight up says, Naval Task Force Omega 19, Dire Straits, will maintain a permanent naval blockade encircling Bokanijin Island, on standby to assist SCP-3896-02 if possible, and to engage and terminate all instances of SCP-3896-01. So yes, there is. I guess what we were reading later is just like basically the first encounters. And they have since set up a permanent blockade. And they've also got Sigma 58, which is the bottom feeders, to send up standard Operation Marduk disinformation protocols, like they are doing currently with the entity formerly known as Guam. You know what's funny? Like, every time I say that, the entity formerly known as Guam, I just imagine a prince-esque monster.
Of course.
a giant like 2-kilometer high prince, like the artist formerly known as Prince.
Yeah, but
as like a
weird
as a weird like
monster.
Cronenberg like flood monster.
Yeah.
And now I know what the title card, if I ever get back to doing title cards, will be for this episode.
I miss title cards.
I'm sorry, man. It's been a rough couple of months. I've been brushed, so
It's fine.
Yeah.
Brushed?
I've been rushed.
Oh, they said brushed. Like, what does you being brushed have to do with it?
Yes.
You that hairy?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just all. I'm cousin it underneath the cloak.
Yeah.
And now we have another fucking piece of art I gotta do. Damn it.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyway, I will move on. Okay. So I just countered myself about that whole my whole issue with that situation. Okay. Cool. Moving on. The southeastern coastline of Bokanijin Island features a literal cave, approximately 30 by 25 by 20 meters in dimensions. Literal, or Littoral, which is pronounced literal, as in Liderel.
I love the English language. It's the best.
It is an adjective relating to or situated on the shore of a sea or a lake. It's also a noun, a region lying along a shore. So I learned a word today. Because I was like, literal? Like features a literal cave? Like, is this
It's an actual cave?
I was like, is this a misspelling of literal? And it's like, no. It's a separate word that sounds exactly like how you would say literal.
Yeah.
Guys,
Buffalo.
say it with me. I hate
hate
the
English
English language.
English language.
It's the worst.
Yeah, it truly is. I'm making that a fucking t-shirt for Redbubble now.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the English language. Al dente rigor mortis.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on to my next thing here, which is from the interview between Agent Hess and SCP-3896-03. Agent Hess approaches SCP-3893-0... No. Agent Hess approaches SCP-3896-03 in full MOPP gear. SCP-3896-03 scoffs. This is 03. Look at you, child. Defenses raised. You have little to fear from me, provided you possess strength of blood. Agent Hess. You'll forgive a woman for being cautious. 03. I suppose I shall. The weak are well served by vigilance. Agent Hess. What are you? SCP-3896-03 laughs. 03 again. There are a number of answers to that question, my little flower. Do you ask a name? Agent Hess. That would do for a start. 03. I had one, but I gave it up. When one becomes restless, one loses a number of things. But the mother is fair, and some things are given in exchange. Okay, so now that I've read that little interview bit, so initially when I was reading this entry, and it was describing 03, and then I started reading when I got into the interview here, like starting up the interview, I was kind of thinking that 03 was an agent of the Admiral, or like the Knights, like the bearers of the burden. Like maybe like the kaiju creature like spawns and is trying to like get there or leave or something like that, or like maybe like the reason why it's like the guy in the cave and the knight, like they were related, and that they're there to basically at a emergence point for the creatures to like stop them. But then as you read the interview and we get more like information from the interviewer, the interviewee here, like he mentions the mother being fair, and that's when I realized that he was a speaker for the mother. And I don't know if this is a revelation or anything. It's just like the way the cave and 03 were described, it seemed like they were more on the side of the bearers. But then it's just like, oh god, no, this is an emissary of the mother. Shit.
Because the last time we read about a cave, it was the MMO character creation area.
Yeah, which does have both the Admiral and the mother there. Like,
oh, that's true.
Yeah, but at the same time, like the way the cave is described here, like it more like kind of resembled the biological components and stuff like that. Kind of more or less kind of seem to describe like what the knights kind of look like sometimes, with like the coral and like and driftwood and such.
I'm sure it also said it had flesh on the walls, though.
Yeah, but it was flesh from like fish. But it does also.
No, it said human at the end.
It does say. It does say at the end, yes, like a human flesh. So I apparently skipped. I apparently skimmed over that, or just like didn't recall that while I was reading it. I was like, oh, like maybe that should have been a bit of a red flag here. So that was the first kind of thing. It's just like, oh shit, no, we're talking to the mother, or we're talking to an emissary of the mother here. That's kind of creepy. And we continue on with that with the next part of the interview that I quote down here. Agent Hess. Well, Agent Hess. What purpose are you serving specifically? 03. I am the tender of this node, one of hundreds throughout the body of our planet. We are the many canals through which Mother's wrath is made real upon the surface of the world. I minister to this section of Mother's body, with all its fertility, given to one that shares a portion of her ferocity and will. Oh! So the mother really is Shub-Niggurath, the fecund mother, and the black goat of the woods with 1,000 young. Or at least, like, that may be the Cthulhu mythos inspiration for this, for the mother, or maybe it's just like that's where my cultist brain was going. It's like, oh shit, no, this is straight up Shub-Niggurath. Like, that's what the mother is. I mean, it could also be the charnel god Mordigian, which is sort of like the ghoul god, and like would kind of fit like kind of the bill of like, you know, all the dead, like the dead zombified flesh that the mother has around. Though in several literary and tabletop sources, Shub-Niggurath is represented as being encased within, or even the earth itself. Like, she's the dark, gooey center at the inside of our planet, and the mother of all life on our planet as we know it. So yeah, I was just like, as soon as I got like to this part where it's like describing the mother again, I was just like, oh man, this is definitely like, if I was gonna like port this like idea of like the mother and like her nodes and stuff like that, I would definitely just use Shub-Niggurath from the Cthulhu mythos. In fact, I'm pretty sure there is a scenario in the Trail of Cthulhu campaign, The Final Revelations, that has a sequence where you go down into a cave and then you realize that it's actually a mouth to a giant, to an appendage of the creature of Shub-Niggurath who lives in the center of our world.
Oh damn.
Yeah, and I always love that in like fiction and stuff like that, when we discovered that the planet we live on is in fact a creature, or some kind of like horrid like monstrosity. Like, we always worry about, like, in fiction, like, you always get, like, the moon is some kind of egg or some kind of, like, creature, and that's why we get, like, why people act funny on a full moon and stuff like that. Like, that's literally where the word lunacy comes from, is lunar sea.
I mean, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. And it was also, like, one of the reasons why, like, people speculate why, like werewolfism kind of stemmed from the fact of, like, people acting crazy on a full moon. But yeah, a lot of people like speculate that like in fiction and stuff like that, in horror fiction, that the moon itself is actually a giant like eldritch horror from beyond time and space. And in fact, there's a movie coming out like this year, I think, or next year, called Moonfall, which is basically the same kind of situation.
Oh, nice.
Like, it, from what I saw in the trailer, like the moon is crashing down on Earth, but it looks like there's also like tendrils or like some kind of like nanoswarm tentacle things coming out of the moon as well. So it's like, it's doing it purposefully. It's not just doing it because it's running. It's like falling out of orbit. It's like just coming to consume us now.
Swimming.
Now that it's woken up, it's coming to consume the Earth.
Yeah.
But yeah. So again, just like I don't know if CadaverCommander was inspired by Shub-Niggurath for this, but I'm definitely getting that kind of vibe from the mother, like even more. But that might just be my cultist brain, like just firing on all cylinders. So yeah. So yeah, exactly. Just saying the dark truths of the world.
As the cultist does.
And then we shall move on to this quote. Agent Hess, who are the bearers? 03. Ugh. It would take more effort.
Ugh? I can't believe this bad guy.
God damn it. Okay, for the audience at home, who's not going to get that, we had an in-joke about Ugg, which is spelled UGG, is from one of the space bounty hunters from the Critters movies. And, like, spoilers for a movie series, for like, the fourth movie.
Was it fourth? I thought that was from the second movie.
No, it's from the fourth movie.
Okay, I see why I was so butthurt then. Okay. Is it like spoilers for a movie that came out in the 90s? Like, go check out Critters. They're a fun, silly like horror movies about little tribbles with teeth from space. But yeah, there's the recurring character of a space bounty hunter called Ugg, who shape changes and stuff like that. And in the fourth movie, he ends up becoming the villain. And we had an in-joke for the longest time. It's still active. I just said it.
That's true, yeah. Where whenever one of us like literally like audibly does like ugh, and somebody would say, it's like, ugh, I can't believe he's the, or like, wouldn't even say like, ugh, can't believe he's the bad guy. We just say, can't believe he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Can't fucking believe it. So, okay. Explanation of an in-joke from our group of friends cleared from the table.
Yeah.
I will continue. I believe it was also Mikey that started that, too.
Was it? I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember it was Mikey saying that, saying that after we marathoned the Critter movies one day. Anyway, so yeah, 03. It would take more effort than they warrant to tell the story in full. Suffice it to say that they're a ragged band of miserable bores. They prevent us from accessing our true potential. When they are not making a nuisance of themselves, they generally just stand around and watch us, barely able to keep upright with all that hilarious equipment they carry, and probably moan about how sad they are and how their chronically depressed king is so noble and brave, and etc., etc. They are not very interesting. I have broken them here, and soon so will the others. Then we can be about the true business. And then this is when Agent Hess pipes in. That business being... And then we get 03. My dear, our aim is simple and effective. Where yours is fettered and weak, the fisherman is tiring, and we are closing in upon him. The Liberty doesn't care enough to stand against us, content with chasing the moon and howling like a dog. And the Sorrow's strength is waning with each passing day. Mother will make us all as strong as she, and we will finally fear nothing. Humanity will be strong through her love. And to this I have to say, I love the banter of this entity. If it wasn't like clear of like me role
playing it out.
Like role playing out this this dialogue as the entity, I fucking love this entity's banter.
Mhm.
And it's also really interesting to get to see what the other side's perspective is on the conflict happening, like between the mother's forces, what they see is happening. It's actually very Lovecraftian, in that the Eldritch force is either unconcerned, thinks they're winning, or in fact thinks that they are helping humanity in advancing through the horror they are inflicting. Like, oh no, trust us. We're helping you. Meanwhile, oh God, why? As people are just being consumed by the flesh.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I just love how they seem oh, you're so cute, humanity in the SCP Foundation and the Knights. You think you're winning. You're winning some battles. You're not going to win the war, honey.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that's Delta Green's philosophy. Is Delta Green is a losing war. Delta Green, the whole premise of Delta Green, an agency that's fighting the Cthulhu mythos. They don't expect to win the war against the mythos, but they're going to keep fighting to the bitter fucking end because that's what humanity does. Even if we go out, we're going to go out in a blaze of glory. We will not go quietly into the night.
Yeah, of course.
So, the apocalypse has already happened. We're just trying to live through it right now, sort of thing. And yeah, that's what this sort of this dialogue is sort of kind of bringing up, at least to me, from the Lovecraft cosmic horror side of thing, is that the other side, the mother's winning. She's basically just from her perspective, if she is truly encased in our Earth, or is part of is our Earth, basically Mother Earth, you said earlier, gamer. She's effectively just grooming herself, she's just picking off some of the fleas and that's humanity, or basically taking off some of the parasites that are on herself,
or brushing herself.
Exactly, yeah. Or brushing herself.
as we brought up earlier.
Nice callback to a fumble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also, like I said earlier, I like or how I mentioned earlier, I like the inclusion of the links that are related to the related SCPs. Like when it says the fisherman is tiring, it's a link to Hull and Hank. And yeah, the other side is just like, and I love the commentary here. It's like the other side of this conflict is kind of like giving what their status update is, like what their perspective is and stuff like that, and how concerned they are about things. The one thing that does bother me about this part, who are the Liberty, or who is the Liberty? It seems to be mentioned almost like an entity or a group of interest, but it's not linked. And I'm just wondering, should it be, or has it not been like, has an entry not been provided yet?
Maybe.
Yeah. Like, so I'm wondering if that's an entity that, or like sort of a foreshadowing of like a new CadaverCommander story, or a new like story that's being propagated for this mythos.
I don't know.
So, or is the Liberty like just like what the mother calls like America, or the Foundation maybe even? Because like it says like the Liberty doesn't care enough to stand against us, content with chasing the moon and howling like a dog. Like that could be like a weird like symbolic line for America, like the American government, like the government agencies and stuff like that don't care, like aren't fully like convicted or committed to attacking the mother. They're more interested in going up into space. Sorry, space. To travel to the moon, and like again, like Americans tend to bark a lot, like in terms of like, imagery and representation of them, like from other points of view. Like they bark a lot. They don't do much.
Yeah, like look at Dr. Dre. He barks all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or who X gonna give it to you? Is his name just X?
What?
You know, like the guy like X going to give it to you. Like, isn't that like who is that artist? Because he barks in X gonna give it to you.
Yeah, it's DMX.
Yeah, DMX.
That's what I meant, not Dr. Dre. I meant DMX.
Okay, yeah, and
People also are D's. I also don't know rap.
Okay, good. Yeah. We are. Yeah, we don't know rap. Also, rest in power, DMX, because he died recently.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, like I think last year he passed away. So yeah, rest in power. However, moving right along. Yeah. So I either this is like some kind of like metaphorical like line for like for the Foundation or like the American government, or it's some other entity that we haven't touched on, but we have no link, so we can't go to that. I can't add that to our list of SCPs to tackle yet. So, but it is interesting, like this, and again, like, and then and the Sorrow's strength is waning with each passing day, showing like the Knights are. Because it is this entry does describe the Knights as losing, like every time they go up against these flesh monsters, they need the aid of like a couple of battleships to help.
But
like
with the aid, they win.
Yeah, but when the ships aren't there, they aren't able to fight this thing off. So it's like
Correct, but with human intervention, they're winning.
I suppose that's a little glimmer of hope, is that if we work together, and it even does mention later on, I think in this entry, like the in the addendum, I think it says something about they're planning on continuing the work of talking to the bearers, initiating contact with the bearers to obtain greater information concerning the scope and current status of the conflict, and also global or instances or increased experimentation with SCP-3898, which is, that project that creates super soldiers for the Foundation.
The anchor, right?
Yeah, that was the anchor. Yeah, and how it like transforms the subjects that they are, or the soldiers that they are like putting down, like to do this, into these like basically these knights, similar to the knights that are conjured up by the king, or the Sorrow King. But actually, speaking of the addendum, I will move on to my next thing. Addendum. After the loss of Agent Hess, SCP-3896 instances have begun to display tactical adaptations. And at this, I was like, right. Forces get tactically smarter, the more agents they consume.
Yeah, but they just keep
Like,
feeding them.
I know, yeah. It's because it's like the flood. Like, how do you fight the flood without glassing the planet? Or did I just spoil like the what you do?
Maybe.
However, that's definitely I guess at some point it might have to be the assault on Guam. Like they were planning basically to just like, look, we're fighting this. We're losing. We need non-conventional weaponry. We also need to just like get rid of this disinformation campaign and just tell the world governments this is happening to try and like get our Independence Day situation in check.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Wait, my whole point with that is like they keep feeding intelligent, tactically sound people to the monsters. Why don't they just send a freaking D class down there with a mic in his ear and just tell him what to say?
Oh, you mean for like I'm sorry, it's kind of funny that Agent Hess like they said, oh well, I think that like this interview was probably the first time they ever contacted like the cave because they have like her on a reel to try and reel her back if something goes wrong. However, they weren't fast enough because the cave like crushed down on or like clamped down on her like jaws.
Did you? So you saw it like the entire cave came down? I thought it was just like random like pointy bits from the walls came out and just stabbed her.
Honestly, yeah, no, I saw like the roof and the floor suddenly grow teeth, like shark teeth, like shark teeth made of like rock and bone and stuff, and then just clamp down, and a spray of blood happened, like an anime, like some horror anime.
Yeah, I saw like 2 or 3 like rocky, like pointy tentacle-y things came out from the wall and just like stabbed the shit out of her.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, no, I saw like a mouth. Like I saw the cave become a mouth, basically.
I guess it wasn't described too well then.
I mean, we can take away from different different things. Yeah, a large mass of organic tissue resembling a set of jaws lined with jagged blade-like structures rises from the cave floor and engulfs Agent Hess. A gout of blood erupts from the aperture. Backup team activates recall reel, the end of which returns cleanly sheared. Camera feed lost.
Okay, yeah, I think I read this late at night, and I was like, I'm almost done. Just keep reading. And I didn't click in the whole Jaws part, and it was all organic.
Also, my imagery was
so it's like
my imagery was also slightly off because it was basically like a Sarlacc pit or like a graboid, just like grabbed her from it snatched her up from below, not from like all around her.
We were both wrong. Yeah,
it's fine. Again, like it's not on the fault of the story. Honestly, we probably just read it wrong because exactly. So anyway, that's you do put on a good point though. Like, why didn't they use a D class? You know, SCP loves using their D class when it comes to like experimentation and stuff like that. It wouldn't. Especially like they have a camera feed, they have a microphone, so that why not just have like as a D class go in there, talk to this thing, and then give the person prompts like through the headset. For
comparison, they feel it's necessary to use a D class for a guy to go in and poke an anchor. They don't need a D class to send someone into like a scary pit that they think there's horrible things coming out of,
to talk to what is effectively Captain Keyes from Halo 1 when he's been consumed by the flood. Because that's okay, this is going to be a gamer moment. Did you also kind of get that imagery when it describes like the humanoid like person like just fused to the back of the cave wall with like the organic material?
I saw basically like aliens.
Oh, like the resin like the xenomorph like resin situation? Yeah,
because wasn't Keyes like he wasn't fused to a wall or nothing. He was
fused to a so there was basically it was a flood node, like a biomass like growth in the middle of I think in the center of the bridge of the ship that you go to, and he was just kind of fused to it. Like most of his body was already like assimilated into the biomass.
Okay, for some reason I thought it was something that was more mobile.
Nope,
like he was part of a infested creature thing. Okay, never mind.
That's cool. Honestly, yeah, the xenomorph resin comparison isn't too far off either, because like basically they just they stuck people into their horrible biomass growth so they'd stay put while the facehuggers showed up. So, but yeah,
with keys, I'm pretty sure it was just his face exposed.
I thought there was more. I'm gonna Google this. This is super important.
Yeah, where this one is basically the arms and legs are like they've turned into the weird biomass.
No, it's sorry.
His chest is exposed and his head, but like all the skin is gone. So it's a very different visual.
Yeah, his whole body's there. Captain Keys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his you can see where his legs are. You can see where his torso is. His arms are like spread out, and like they're like
T-posed.
Composed. Yeah, basically composed, like kind of. And you see like all like the flood veins and stuff like that, kind of like stretching his body into the growth as it kind of becomes one. Once again,
yeah, you can kind of see him, but he's like mostly. Well, actually, no, you can see him pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I've got for my actual thoughts for SCP-3896. The Nights Grow Weary. Mikey, these stands for evil. I've been talking a lot. What do you got?
All right. Well, my first actual thought sort of mimics what you had for the kaiju, but this is more, in my mind, a creepy version of Power Rangers.
Yeah.
So, because you have the good guys that are melded together and the bad guys that are melded together. It's just one's a monster and one's a knight.
We really need to watch Psycho Gorman because it's basically a horror version of Power Rangers.
Nice. The way I saw it, just because we're talking about the same sort of subject, is it's basically Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Like there's this giant fucked up creature, but there's also this weird supernatural knight dude that's fighting him with a huge weapon.
Absolutely right. It's like Bloodborne. It's a Souls game. Like this is basically a Monster of the Week Souls game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes sense to why the knight always loses most of the time.
Yeah. 2 shots and you're dead. Like
I know. Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
You need to wait for your. That's what Souls games need. They need like battleships off in the distance, just like firing artillery at the enemy.
Yeah.
That's the Souls game's easy mode. Is like there's just cannons off in the distance that will like target the big bad boss that you're fighting, and like deplete its health in a couple of shots, giving you a chance to like get the killing blow.
Or they have all that shit happening, but it's really not helping much to show either A, how powerful your character is, or just how powerful this boss is. That even with all this shit happening and you hitting him, it ain't doing shit.
Or the cannons are off in the distance. Like this is the easy mode of the Souls game. The cannons are off in the distance, firing. They're not depleting the creature's health, but what they are doing is distracting the creature enough for you to get a bunch of good licks in.
Ah.
That's the easy mode. Is basically the monster doesn't attack you while you're fighting it. Because it's too busy.
Sounds like you just want easy mode.
I do.
Because like easy mode Dark Souls is like a freaking oxymoron.
I don't care. I want to be able to play the game and enjoy the world it's built, and not die every 100 times.
You want to know how you do that? You watch a Let's Play.
I did.
Okay, well then there you go. You've experienced it. Yeah, I hear you.
Man, those tangent police are getting feisty out there.
Ah, shit. He digresses. It's fine.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Sorry, Mikey, you were... Yeah, continue.
Yeah. So my second actual thought is in regards to the knights, because I think this is the first time we encounter them.
Kind of. Again, like we kind of see how they're created in the Anchor, I believe. And I think we also see we see like what the Foundation's version of them in the Bearer of the Burden, or the Bearers of the Burden SCP entry.
Yeah.
These are like basically these are the homegrown, like these are like what the this is like what the these are the ancient, like these are basically like the ancient manifestation, like manifested like warrior knights from like from before the modern period. I think
I can summarize this a lot quicker for you that everyone would understand. The ones that are here are like prime warframes from the Orkan era, and the ones that the SCP Foundation makes are like the standard warframes,
that you
which
have
is
to
basically the best that they can make with current technology.
Yep. Oh yeah, everyone can relate to that.
Of course, we just got out of 10 November.
Yeah. We got out of 10 November. We're now celebrating Tenobomb. Woo!
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mikey.
You'll be fine.
So yeah, the other thing that I was thinking of is that normally when we have the two entities sort of battling it out, and the example is in the cave, where they're basically battling out to get the souls or whatever. Normally we have someone from each side.
Yeah.
So in this, we only have the mother's representative in the cave. We don't have the admiral's representative getting more knights.
Well, that's the thing. This is not that cave. Like that cave is I think a completely different situation. Like that one it's the petition of the dead is I think what the nickname is for that in the Foundation website. That's basically the character generator. This is basically the spawn point for the mother. So the knights are just spawn campers.
Yep.
They're straight up. Yep. You gotta do what you gotta do to save humanity in the world.
Yep. Gank those monsters.
So yeah, like,
or is it possible that there's no mother representative there because no, what's the other one?
The admiral. I think it's technically the King of Sorrow or the admiral of the admiral.
Well, either way, there's no admiral representative there. Maybe because the mother one killed it,
or since both faction creatures spawn 700 meters off the coast of the island. Perhaps the island is where the spawner is for the mother's like situation, and the admiral's there is actually a spawner for the admiral's knights, but it's down in the ocean.
Yeah,
or maybe it's in the center of the atoll. Like maybe if the SCP Foundation did a survey down into the center of the atoll, they would find like a ship or some kind of relic that is related to the admiral itself.
Probably because they have to spawn somewhere.
Yeah, and since the admiral is all about crushing depths, it would make sense that his spawner would be at the bottom of the ocean. So maybe something if CadaverCommander or whoever wrote this is listening, maybe add like as a part of the addendum or something like that, like. Maybe maybe an updated piece of information like that the SCP Foundation has discovered the admiral's like emissary somewhere nearby. I don't know, just like that's a suggestion.
Yeah, and that would make me like it even more.
Mm-hmm. That could also, to kind of connect it to like a kitchen segment, Mikey. That could actually be a really good idea for a game where like Esoterrorist or Delta Green, and it's a naval situation where you're down in a submersible, because you guys have like because you're SCP agents who are going down and looking for are looking to recover or like looking to track or find a signal nearby. And you think it's like possibly like where the rift is that these the mother's creatures are spawning from, but in reality you discover like while you're down there it's actually the admiral's emissary down there. Because I'm sort of like picturing either like maybe one of those like statues of that you you see sometimes online like images of like scuba divers like going down to the bottom of the ocean and they find like statues that have just been there for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
Or like for like a couple of for decades, and they're just like it's like all barnacled up, but it's like clearly a statue that's in the bottom of the ocean. So, that could be an interesting like seed for a scenario.
Yes, it could. Anyway, that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right. Gamer, you're up.
My turn. Let's see what's left. This is sort of to do with the formatting of it. Let me look at it.
Oh,
So there's the...
yeah. Two of the images didn't load for me. I don't know if that was like that for you guys.
Also
yes,
noticed. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I also noticed that on my.
I have notes to bring it up.
Okay,
I have notes to bring it up.
Cool.
Cool. So when I started reading it, there's the title, there's the subtitle, the object class, and then the connections. That's all great. But then right after it as well is also great because it immediately goes straight to everything to do with the containment of the SCP and what's already set up. Because previously in other SCPs, I've complained that they go over all this lengthy stuff, and then at the end you find out how to contain and like what's the containment procedure with it and all that stuff at the end of the whole damn thing. Like you have to read the whole story if you're reading this in the lore as a agent that has been assigned to this creature. You'd have to read the entire thing before you know what you shouldn't do.
That is weird. Yeah, that is weird because like it does like most of the SCP. Like I'm looking at the wiki SCPs entries, and it has special containment procedures at the top for big Gordos.
I'm not saying none of them do it. I'm just saying I have previously been annoyed by other SCPs having the important information at the end.
Gotcha. Yes.
This is good that it's at the start.
Yeah.
Because like I don't have to read an essay to find out that -2 is good and -1s are bad.
Yeah.
Or bad. My voice went out there.
Yeah, like it does straight up say like their blockade is encircling the island on standby to assist O2 if possible and to engage and terminate all instances of O1.
Yeah, like, so like if I just got assigned to this and I'm sitting down reading all this information and then all of a sudden it shows up, but I only had like 2 minutes to read the document, I would know what to do.
Yeah, it's like, I think no, don't worry. I was like, sir, what do we do? Kill that knight and assist.
Which one's O2? That's all I know.
And assist the biomass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, that seems counterproductive. Don't question me.
Yeah.
That's again the horror scenario where like the creature has broken loose and destroyed the part of the blockade because they had a new guy who didn't read the paperwork.
Yeah,
that's that is the bureaucratic horror. I kind of want that story of like one of these entities destroying the blockade around the island because that guy was in charge.
Just that one guy fucking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, I'll move on from there. It goes on to talk about how over $1 million in tactile assets and 4 people killed every engagement. And as soon as I read that, I'm like, how can they afford to keep that up? Because that's $5 million and 16 soldiers a month. That
was my comment about the permanent blockade. It was like, guys, like seriously,
like how much money do they have? That's what I'm questioning.
That's the thing about the SCP Foundation has like global, like they are not like just the American government. They are able to siphon money from like all the governments of the world and shit, basically.
Yeah.
Also, like the military, like the American like government, like you're like, how do they afford that? The American government goes probably like 10 times that probably in a year.
Probably.
Or like they are like, or I'm sure that's even like that's even an understatement. Like the American government pumps so much money into their military, into the military industrial complex. Mm-hmm. So like, it's not that far fetched that they spend like that much money. It is like, again, like I do feel like they may want to focus more, like this blockade may want to focus more on just assisting the knight, so that they don't have to like have this thing like the O2 show up like up close and personal to one of their ships. But
what?
Like I feel like because I feel like
O2 being close to the ship matter.
Well, I feel like so like when O1 and O2 are engaged,
because They're going to have an adorable
I
wedding.
was going to say, O1 took a knee and proposed. It was very adorable.
Yes.
Damn it. But like the ships are off in the distance, like firing, I assume, like on O2. But when O1 gets
firing on O1.
Yeah, clearly. You're right.
O1 is the one they're trying to kill.
I'm sorry. I goofed up. Yeah.
Okay.
When the biomass is getting shot upon, like from the ships,
Yes.
like they're off in the distance. But when the knight dies or gets destroyed by the biomass has to get past that blockade. So I think that's when they see losses, is because the ships have to now maneuver around this kaiju beast. And I mean, again, it's a kaiju movie, so we all know what happens to the military when they try to engage with the enemy.
Yeah. So pretty much most of the time, the knight dies, and that's why the SCP Foundation takes losses.
Yeah, because and they do win. Like they end up defeating the creature, but they take losses in the process because like while they're hunting this thing down, it's probably whipping like tentacles out at them or something, or snatching up crewmen, or killing or like damaging the ship and like causing damage that way.
Mm-hmm. But I'll move on from there.
Yeah.
So then my next one is about the two missing pictures. The first one, the description is foul photo of SCP-3896-1 remains examination. And the second one is detail of SCP-3986-3 chamber growth formation.
So I have
and for me is like this, like of course the two pictures that I want to see are the ones that aren't working. The only one we got at the start is just like a generic opening of a cave.
Yeah.
The two actually interesting ones based on the descriptions we don't get.
I have a theory about that now, like that just popped in my head. I wonder if the photos being broken is intentional. Because it's like file photo of SCP-3896-01 remains examination. So like they don't want the SCP Foundation, like it's like sort of like the horror, like it's sort of
It's
playing
redacted,
on the
is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's redacted. It's also playing on the idea that like you can describe describe a monster and leave the full description and like the imagery up to the imagination of the reader. But as soon as you show an image of the creature, yes, you show. So it's better to I kind of like the idea, the fact, I kind of hope that that's what's happened here, and it's not just like an issue with the website, is that this was purposefully, like, sort of show it, like, they can't show you an actual image of what this thing is, because it's broken the website. And so it leaves you, the reader, who's reading through this document, to imagine what those descriptors are portraying.
I'll say this, though.
Yeah.
I would be 100% down for that if there were large sections of this that were redacted. But there's no redactions anywhere except for these. Except,
my counter to that is, well, yes, like the redaction thing is a situation in this. I like the idea that like it's basically, this is less of a full SCP, or this is less of an SCP like that we've read in the past, where like all the redacted and stuff to hide information from you. This one is more of a horror story in that it is, in the written word, it is describing what these monsters kind of look like. So it helps you kind of generate an image in your head. And then it presents the SCP form, the SCP entry format, by giving you an image. But oops, the image is broken. So you're just going to have to visualize what that creature looks like in your head based on the little descriptor on the image.
Yes, and I heard you say that the first time. I'm just saying that there's a lack of redactions in the entire story, so it's odd that these are redacted, but nothing else is. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't hate that they're like this, and yes, that's a good idea if that's intentional. It's just weird that it's the only thing redacted.
Okay.
Moving on, the next one is when it starts talking about the MOPP gear, which is what she was wearing when she went in to talk to O3. It apparently means mission-oriented protective posture. It's basically the protective gear used in toxic environments that the military uses.
Okay.
Just like chemically sealed stuff with a gas mask.
So here's a fun. If you look at the image that is available in this episode, or in this entry,
ADR.
There is a person in the cave, like walking.
What did you say?
There's if you what did you say?
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
There's two people.
There's two people. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So maybe
It's like an
Photoshop
adult
one of
and
those,
a child.
yeah. Maybe Photoshop one of those guys out. Because like
maybe both of them.
Oh no. I think honestly like Photoshop one of them out because the other one could be somebody in that outfit. Like I think the darker colored one could actually probably the darker colored one kind of like they're completely covered like in like some kind of like in clothes, but like the way, because it's dark enough and like it's far away enough, this could be an image from like the ship that is waiting for Agent Hess to come back. Like showing her like entering the cave, right?
If there's no cable, there would be a cable.
I mean, you could Photoshop that in. That's not really hard at all either. Honestly, I might just, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna do that. I'm just gonna save this image.
I'm
just gonna do that myself.
Do it.
But yeah, no, like legitimately, like I think, yeah, looking at the image like that, maybe that should be, because when I first looked at it, I just saw the one person, and I was like, oh, so maybe that's Agent Hess walking into the cave. But yeah, you do like even close up, you can see that there's two people there, and one of them's wearing a skirt, so it's like a child or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's kind of weird that they have an image of them walking into the O3 cavern there.
Unless it was this is like an image not from the SCP, but like from a tourist who went to the island and like saw it, got first contact the hard way.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Oh yes. As the description on that says, entrance to cavern containing O3 flesh profusion.
Profusion. Yeah, profusion.
Profusion? What the fuck's a profusion?
Oh, they retracted it too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's retracted.
It should. I think that might be a typo because I don't. Protrusion.
Protrusion, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on. Profusion.
Cosmetics is a thing.
Definition of profusion according to Merriam-Webber dictionary. Definition of profusion: 1. Lavish expenditure, extravagance. Number 2. The quality or state of being profuse. 3. Great quantity, lavish display or supply. No? What?
Profuse means
so.
Especially if something being offered or discharged, exuberantly plentiful or abundant, is what profuse means. So maybe it means abundant amount of tentacles and
has been retracted. Yeah. Either it's been it hasn't been redacted. It's been retracted. So that's either like I think that's what that is like. The creature inside the cave has retracted its flesh from the cave.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, yeah. But sorry, for me when I read that,
probably should mean protrusion.
Maybe
because it's a protrusion of flesh, unless it is a lot of flesh, is what it's talking about.
Which, as described, yeah. Yes, Mike.
And what if those people are actually part of the cave?
Oh.
So it lures people in. It's like, oh, there's people over there. Hey, get out of the cave.
God, there's a child there. We got to stop it. Get back here. And then they're lured in. It's like the Fisher of Men. Just like, come this way.
Yeah, I'm sure that's it.
Yep, clearly.
Definitely it.
Yep.
And then the last one I already talked about, because they didn't need to throw Agent Hess in there. They should have just thrown a D-class in there.
Yep.
Or a drone. Send a robot in there, like...
Again, SCP Foundation, the horror of bureaucracy is like mismanagement and like bad ideas and bad consultations. It's just like
this isn't like the Derplin jurisdiction of the SCP, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not. Or no, it is. Or it is not.
It is. Just in regards to that.
Again, you say Derplin. Honestly, like this is just like this kind of bullshit happens all the time in corporations and governments. You can't call it Derplin when it happens in real life like this all the time.
Well, okay, but like I compared to before, they'll send in hordes of D-class to poke a freaking not an antler. Sorry,
the anchor.
I can't think of the word. Anchor. There we go.
Yeah.
poke an anchor, but they won't send one in there.
Yeah. Well, again, like that's what science, like the researchers are for. So, like, yeah, I get you. It is dumb, but like maybe they didn't know that the mother, like that it would do that. So, like, and somebody got
Maybe
too
it's friendly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the scientist from fucking Prometheus. It's like, hi there, little vagina snake. How you doing? And then it like jumps onto his face and gets him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
I
like,
don't remember the vagina snake. I've only seen that movie once.
Yeah, it was basically the precursor to the face hugger, and he's like, "Hi there, little guy." And it's like maybe it's friendly. Oh, it's very friendly. But I digress.
Did you just digress on my notes?
I digressed myself out of your notes.
Okay. How dare you, sir?
Yes.
But no, I'm done.
Okay. So, yeah, this entry for me had a foreboding sort of element to it in terms of like the horror of it. But I think I was most like what I liked most about this story, about this like this entry and its premise and stuff is just the supernatural brawl. And like the idea of like this kaiju thing rising from the depths, and then a knight coming to face it as well, and then like the blockade of Foundation ships just having to deal with the kaiju monster after the knight invariably gets creamed.
Mm-hmm.
So fight the kaiju monster, knight, or else the Foundation will have to. That's the Frasier Neon Genesis Evangelion meme for anybody out there who's interested in that in joke. Mm-hmm. So, as with many CadaverCommander stories and entries, if indeed, or at least within their little mythos that they've created and stuff, yeah, I love this extra bit of mythos building and like going on here, like the fact that we get this snarky emissary to the mother in the cave. Like, can you tell us about the knights? They're not very interesting. But let me tell you about it's a very long story, but let me tell you this. Let me tell you the highlight, which is not very interesting at all.
Mm-hmm. Surprising amount of sense.
Yeah, they're rather droll. Yeah. They're just stopping us from helping humanity rise above the flesh of old. All hail the new flesh. But yeah, that's honestly like what I love about this story is like the characters we get in it, because we get a pretty decent character portrayal from the emissary, and even Hess is a little bit like snippy in some of her replies. It's also what kind of bites her in the ass at the end, literally. And so Monster Brawl, snarky eldritch horror, and also like the emissary's like kind of attitude and stuff also kind of harkens back to Nyarlathotep, who's the messenger of the outer gods, and he's very often like very snarky as his avatars, like as his more human avatars. So it's like, hey, like, do you really want to just be sane and exist? Non-existence is really cool. Like, it's that kind of like shit. And yeah, so again, just harkens back to like the things I like about this story is like the cosmic horror element with attitude and supernatural monster brawl.
Way to call back to Power Rangers again.
That was a callback. That was in fact a callback. That was planned. So yeah, I like this. I recommend it. If you've been reading the other CadaverCommander stories and you were a little confused by 3896, which is Big Gordo's Grub Shack, this is a much more appropriate read. Yeah, we feel you. And this is a much more appropriate read if you've read the other entries of Operation Marduk and the Mother and the entity formerly known as Guam. So,
what's its official name? Because that's just the unofficial name we keep giving it.
I think it's just, I don't know. Hang on, let me look it up. Actually, yeah, hang on. Let me see. Fuck, I don't know, man.
It's fine. It's not worth it.
That's SCP-3895. Yeah, I recommend this. And I will hand over the mic to Mikey. The E stands for evil.
Okay. I personally enjoyed the battle that's going on. The entity in the cave was interesting. The only thing that sort of irked me a little bit, I guess, for the continuity, that there was no real choice given, like we have in previous. It's just, oh, you get to be part of the mother.
The Admiral giving the choice because he's not a douchebag.
Yeah, exactly. Like the mother here is just like again, the mother speaking through the emissary here is like, oh, the mother would like a much more intimate discussion, and then she's like, chomp, like and again, like they like, oh, what, we're just going to transfer your mind to speak to the mother. I mean, your body will be ripped apart, but I mean, hey, you weren't going to use that you weren't going to use that much longer anyway, right? Like, it's the very cosmic horror, like creature, like eldritch horror thing of like, why are you screaming? We've removed your brain so you can travel through space.
Yeah. So continuing on.
Yes.
I would like to see if there is a Admiral outpost that is for the Knights.
Oh God! Sorry, not to interject again.
But you're gonna do it.
But I'm gonna let you finish. But wouldn't it be really fucking rad if, like, down in the ocean, there's just a fucking castle?
Oh hell yeah!
Or a keep, like, or at the bottom of the atoll, like at the bottom of that pit, like that deep ocean pit, there's just a fucking like tower, like an old like timey castle tower.
Yeah,
awesome.
That'd be pretty cool.
Like a king on a throne and everything.
Yeah, or just like the head, like the knight captain. Like, it's like the king himself is like in his own other little dimension or whatever, but like he has like knight captains that like send out knights to fight the dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Be so fucking rad. I want to run that scenario or write that story.
Yeah. So, yeah. Overall, when you add it to the continuous lore of the mother and Holland Hank and all of that, it fits and it's enjoyable. So I'm giving it a recommendation.
And gamer.
So when I read through this, it's kind of like, just to summarize it heavily, it's basically just Holland Hank again, but it's Dark Souls now with like the other creature. Like, it's pretty much the same thing. There's creatures that are coming out of the water. The SCP Foundation has to kill them. The only difference is, instead of an SCP entity fishing them out, arriving, and then there's another SCP entity that fights it. Like, it's pretty much the same story, honestly.
I suppose, yeah.
That being said, this also gives more information because it tells you like who's creating the monsters, and like you actually go down into the cave that they apparently come from. You get to talk to the mother indirectly through O3. So like there's more information given, but most of it is just the same thing again. Like that whole conversation with O3 could just be interjected into the Holland Hank story, and it would make just as much sense.
It is actually kind of interesting. You brought up a point here that I just clued in on. The mother's side is more forthcoming than the Admiral's side.
How so? Like,
Holland Hank was very enigmatic, or was sort of cryptic in what he was saying and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And like similarly, like the other things that we've seen of the Admiral and stuff like that, they've been very cryptic. Mother here is just like, no, yeah, we're trying to raise humanity up to a higher standard of evolution, man. Like, fuck, your Admiral is just slowing us down. But we're eventually gonna. Don't worry, we're eventually gonna make it. We're eventually gonna meet our quota.
Yeah,
that being the
pretty
entire
much.
Earth. But yeah, I kind of like how like the cosmic horror, like the malicious cosmic horror. It's actually kind of, again, very cosmic, like very like Lovecraftian in that like the cosmic horror, like the eldritch being, is dropping the terrible truths of the world, i.e., yeah, no, you guys are just slowing us down, but we're eventually going to win, and here's what we're planning on doing. Whereas the other side, the side that's fighting the mythos, is trying to not say or not spell out the truth, because in Lovecraftian horror and cosmic horror fiction, the truth is the worst, is like basically like the seed of all evil, or the seed of all like terror and horror, because when you know the truth, you're going insane.
Oh.
So like the whole, like the battle in cosmic horror, the battle is basically the battle to hide the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the world is not ready for the truth. You can't handle the truth, to quote somebody from X-Files.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's honestly like, and hiding the truth is seen in cosmic horror as the good guys, like, side of things, whereas like revealing the truth is on the side of the villain, or at least I do in quotes villain, because like cosmic horror isn't supposed to be about good and evil. It's
supposed
to be basically,
it's all gray.
Yeah. It's basically supposed to be like our lot in life and existence is one of very inconsequential. Like, that's the truth of the cosmos, is that humanity is a speck living on a mote of dust in the cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we could be wiped out tomorrow and the world would not bat an eye. Like that's the horror of cosmic horror, is like we are inconsequential.
Yeah, so like insignificant we are.
Yeah. And again, in a lot of the conflicts of cosmic horror is basically trying to hide that truth from the general populace. So, but yeah.
Yep. Either way.
Going back to your recommendations. Again, I went on a tangent. Oh god, they're breaking through the door.
It's fine. They're attacking you, not me. So, all in all, like that, there's more lore being said. So that's good, because we got a little bit of answers, but not too much, because if they give too many answers, are you still alive? Okay, he's not. Anyways, I'll deal with that later. But yeah, we're getting some information, which is good, but it is sort of the same story all over again, just reading it over again, where there's a big monster and they have to fight it, and then they sort of win, but not really. It's the same sort of thing all over again, it's like I'm saying the same thing over again. So I'll give it a partial recommendation, because I do like that it's giving more information. I just wish it was a little different to the previous stories. Still give it a high partial, because it is still this huge link of stories that I thoroughly enjoy so far, and I like learning more about it and all that. So high partial.
Okay. All right, I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
How was the flashbang?
Okay. Ow.
What?
It's okay. I yelled digress a couple of times. It kept them at bay.
Oh, that works.
They're away. Yeah, so you said something about your partial recommendation?
Yeah, like a high partial.
Okay. So, yeah, 2.5 ain't bad. Or 2.75 out of 3. Yeah, I do get you. It is sort of a still like very. It is similar to like previous stories that we've done, but it does do a little bit of a switch. It does do its own little thing as well. It's like a different. Yeah. It's like a different flavor of the same thing.
Yeah, but comparing it to the entity formerly known as Guam, where it's this giant biomass that spawns little biomasses, which are killing all of the badass entities that the SCP Foundation are making, that is very different to a creature is rising from the water and the SCP Foundation has to kill it. And in this one, there's a creature rising from the water and the SCP has to kill it. But there's a knight there that helps a little bit.
Well, here's the thing. This I think, honestly, like, if I was to recommend this, I would recommend this story before you read the SCP with the entity formerly known as Guam, because this one's kind of foretelling, like, that their side is winning, like it's actually kind of spelling doom for the knights and their capabilities, because like, well, yes, they're a little bit more resilient than your regular human. The mother and her factions are whittling them down, are finding ways to defeat them.
Oh, I see. And you're suggesting the other one first because the other one is when like the knights just sort of got wiped out and the story didn't bat an eye about it.
Because and this is so like Holland Hank. If I may preface this, Holland Hank is dredging up these people, dredging up these creatures, in an almost infancy stage, like so that they're manageable for the Atlantic fleets, basically, of the SCP to deal with. Because if he didn't do that, they'd show up bigger and meaner.
Yes.
Then we have this one where they're showing up bigger and meaner because the emissary's summoning them or like spawning them. And the knights who have been fighting them for eons are fighting them at that war zone or at that battle stage. However, over the centuries, the knights have been getting whittled down and being beaten back, and it's requiring the extra aid of the SCP forces in the Pacific to stop these monsters from getting to like major population areas after they've defeated the knights. And we're sort of getting a scale, a sort of elevation, a little bit of escalation here from Holland Hank to this entry, and then we get to the creature formerly known as Guam, where it's the mother, or much like the largest aspect we've seen so far of the mother coming into our reality and bringing about the apocalypse.
Yeah, pretty
like
much.
That's what. Yeah, so it is sort, it's referenced in that one that the knights and the super soldiers that that the Foundation has created using the same techniques that the knights used and the Bearer of the Burdens use are now, like, they were brought in, but they're getting wiped as a result of it. So it's like, we're winning battles, but we're not winning the war.
Yeah.
And you see that over the course of the stories that we've read so far. We may have read them out of order, or at least we're getting that information in sort of a kind of haphazard way, but you can then, after the fact you've read them, you can kind of construct that timeline of elevation, of escalation.
Mm.
So, like, not trying to steal away like you're mostly like your critiques of the story. Like you're right, it is kind of the same thing as Holland Hank, but it is kind of also an escalation of what Holland Hank was doing. Like it's like I said, it kind of like flavors the plot of Holland Hank. It sort of like flavors it in a different way, even though like it might the base taste is the same, but there's a different spice to it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
That like kind of maybe heightens it than if you were eating the base meal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see it anyway, or how I kind of saw it.
That's right.
Yeah, but yeah, mostly positive recommendations for this one. Is after all that is said, like from what we've boiled down to, two full recommendations, I believe, and one mostly positive recommendation or partial recommendation. So that has been this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also talk to us on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at The Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
Apparently too long for the SCP website, even.
Yeah. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, SCP tales, cryptids, spooky things on the internet that are fear fiction or analog horror or just creepy internet shit and genre is our thing. So if you want us to talk about it, we will look it over if you send it to us.
If you creep it, we'll peep it.
Wait.
I made a tagline just now.
Fuck. That actually is really fucking good. Yeah, if you creep it, we'll peep it. I kind of like that. Goddamn.
Gonna be a thing now.
That's gonna be like my tag off or my sign off for the emails now.
Awesome.
All right, thank you. Write that down so that we don't forget that.
All right.
And actually, we should have you say it after like the end of the emails.
Okay. Well, I just did, so.
Yeah, no, I know, but like we'll continue. Yeah, anyway. And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you guys so much. It's helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these entries and stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it would be like screaming into the void. The void formerly known as Guam. No.
Pretty much.
Man, I would love if we have some listeners from Guam. Like, if you're out there, send us an email. I'm really curious to see what you think about our shenanigans.
Mhm.
Honestly, I'd be thrilled to hear from any of our fans or listeners. Like, send us emails or comments. Like, we always check them out, and it's always a highlight of our day. And for the authors, thank you guys just as much, because without your stories and your entries, CadaverCommander, I salute you for your
If you did indeed write this one, because we're not sure.
if not for this story, for the mythos and for the narrative you have been building with your other entries, that this is a part of. Like, thank you and God bless. Which God? Well, Cthulhu Fatagan.
Of course.
So, yeah. Until next time, I've been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the Stand for Evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.